Once, Emily stole my fiancé, Jack, and disappeared without paying the compensation her parents had covered. Now, she's standing right in front of us, making sarcasm remarks. Quite a bit older, aren't you? What do you do for a living? My husband is a doctor. Compared to him, your husband looks poor. He's pretty muscular. Though. Does he work at a construction site? Just as I was about to retort, my husband, Ryan, stopped me. I do some physical work too. By the way, since you mentioned your husband is a doctor, does that mean he works at Newport General Hospital? Yes, he's a surgeon. Really? He's my subordinate. The surgeon at Newport General, Jason, right? He specializes in plastic surgery, doesn't he? Ah, yes. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Ryan, the chief surgeon at Newport General Hospital. Meeting Emily again shocked me, and I started crying as soon as we got back into the car. Ryan asked me. I've been thinking. Amy, how do you want to deal with her from now on? Deal with her? That's impossible. There's no way. Just thinking about it makes me feel suffocated. There was a time when just thinking about Emily triggered hyperventilation. I understand that you don't want to be near her at all. That's why I have a plan. A plan? Yes. There is a way to ensure she will never appear in front of you again. My name is Amy. I'm a 32-year-old housewife. Currently, I live a peaceful and happy life with my husband, who is 12 years older, and our 3-year-old son. Ryan is always busy with work and takes great pride in it. By supporting him at home, I find fulfillment in my daily life. Nowadays, it's rare to find someone like me who solely dedicates all their time to support a working husband. People might say that. Even my parents have mentioned it. While I have a truly happy home now, I've had painful experiences to get here. You see, I was deeply betrayed by someone I once believed was my best friend. I met Emily in university. We were in the same department and did everything together for 4 years. I considered her as my best friend. When I first came to the big city for university and felt out of place, Emily reached out to me. She was bright, flashy, and extremely active. She constantly surprised me, and I followed her lead. Coming from a quiet and serious life in high school, she opened up a new world for me. And that relationship continued even after we graduated. At that time, we both got jobs at companies in the city. We often had meals together whenever we had free time. Then, I met someone. Jack was a sales representative from a manufacturer who often visited the trading company where I worked. As a clerk, I interacted with him and eventually, he started asking me out. We soon began dating. I hadn't had much experience with men before, so I was over the moon. Everything progressed smoothly. We introduced each other to our parents and got engaged after 1 year of dating, when I was 26. I was probably quite excited back then. Emily even started saying, "You've been quite distant lately." Well, she was right. I couldn't be in 2 places at once. Naturally, I spent most of my weekends with Jack. Are you hiding something from me? No, not really. Emily had never introduced me to anyone she was dating. So, I thought friendships and romantic relationships were 2 separate things. Jack and I were planning our wedding together, so naturally, I spent more time with him. I guess the reason I didn't tell her was that a part of me wanted to surprise her. Actually, I was embarrassed. I was nervous about introducing Jack to Emily, who could easily chat and hang out with various men. I was scared of how she would think about him. Still, as the wedding approached, I thought it would be fine. "Hey, there's someone I want you to meet," I said, introducing Jack to Emily. "Oh, Amy, you're so secretive. You've kept this from your best friend? That's not like you," Emily said, giving me a hearty pat on the back with a big smile. But that was my mistake. Wedding reservations and preparations. Just when most of those things were settled, Jack suddenly came to my parents' house and said this. "Sorry, Amy. I can't marry you." When I asked why, he said, "Emily is pregnant." I couldn't understand what he was saying. It was a nightmare after that. Did Emily really get pregnant? At that point, it didn't matter either way. He called off the engagement just before the wedding. I'm really sorry. My father was furious, yelled at him and would have hit him if my mother hadn't stopped. The wedding was cancelled. While I was in shock and unable to do anything, my furious parents demanded him to pay the full cancellation fees and compensation. They also demanded compensation from Emily. Jack admitted his fault, paid what he had to, and apologized sincerely, apparently. I say apparently because my memory of that time is vague. I was so shocked that my mind seemed to escape from the reality. Later, I learned that Emily didn't apologize and ignored to pay the compensation and she just disappeared somewhere. According to a letter she left behind, she wasn't even pregnant. That lie and her disappearance devastated me even more. Emily's parents were also furious. When the rumors spread among our university friends, I heard another shocking piece of news. You know, Amy, we didn't tell you because you didn't notice, but Emily used to date and dump every guy you liked. This was news to me. Why would she do that? I don't know. Emily was popular enough herself, but whenever a guy showed interest in you, she'd end up dating him. Maybe she was jealous of you getting attention over her. But we were best friends. Were you? I was stunned. At the time, you seemed more like Emily's sidekick, and we all thought she saw you that way too. I was deeply shocked by those words. It wasn't just that Emily thought that way, but also that I had been completely oblivious to it. And I had no eye for men. Adding to that shock, the whispers at work about me being the woman whose wedding got called off finally broke me. I ended up quitting my job and spent some time resting at my parents' house. After recovering, I got a new job and, at my parents' suggestion, started looking for a marriage partner when I was 28. I had lost faith in my own judgment, so I trusted the profiles sent by concerned relatives more. That's how I met Ryan, who was 12 years older than me. He was so busy with work that he had no time for women, and by the time he realized it, he was already 40. And his family was worried and set him up for meetings. I might not be able to spend time with my family all the time due to my work. I felt he was very honest and sincere. That's why I decided to marry him. Given my past experience, we only informed close family and senior colleagues about the wedding. The next year, we had a baby, and I was planning to take a parental leave, but during this time, Ryan was headhunted for a job in the same industry in another city, so we moved. I felt bad about leaving the job I hadn't been at for long, but everyone kindly sent me off. And so, 3 of us, as a family, started our new life in a new place. Hey. Is that you, Amy? But one day, suddenly, Emily appeared in front of me. That day, we had come to a shopping mall. Our destination that day was the hardware store. Since moving here, we had been slowly working on our new home's interior ourselves. DIY was my hobby. Ryan's new job came with a higher position and a more regular schedule than before. So, occasionally, he would join me in buying heavy items. Right now, he was carrying our son, Noah, on his shoulders. But in that mall, what a coincidence. Emily. Long time no see. Wow, you got married. Yeah, but Emily, you're in this town. Yes, because of my husband's job. So, this is your current husband? Emily looked us up and down. Then she said to Ryan, you are quite a bit older than her, aren't you, in sarcasm way. Ryan calmly replied, yes, well, I got quite focused in my work. You must be Amy's friend. Yes, I'm Emily. But your work? What do you do? Emily, isn't that a bit abrupt? Oh, Amy, are you still mad about the past? It's not that. My husband is a doctor. Compared to him, your husband looks poor. He's quite muscular though. Does he work in construction? Clearly, she was judging him based on appearances. That's not. But just as I was about to argue, Ryan stopped me. I do some physical work too. By the way, since you mentioned that your husband is a doctor, does he work at Newport General Hospital? Yes. He's a surgeon. His name is Jason. Oh. He works for me. What? Jason, the surgeon at Newport General Hospital, right? Yes. I should have introduced myself earlier. I'm Ryan, the chief of surgery at Newport General Hospital. Ryan, you mean the one who was headhunted here last year? What a coincidence. Ryan smiled warmly. Yes. And suddenly, Emily's attitude changed. Come to think of it, this sort of thing happened before too. I just didn't notice it at the time. Well, I apologize. Seeing you in such casual clothes, No, it's fine, some people tend to dress very casually every day outside of work. I tightly gripped the hem of Ryan's clothes. Amy, what's wrong? Let's go home soon. Are you sure? She's your old friend, right? Yes. We have a lot to catch up on. Let's go. I see. Sorry about that, we'll catch up another time. Yes, definitely another time. Emily's cheerful voice was incredibly irritating. What's wrong? You look pale, and your pulse is fast. Ryan said as we got back to the car, buckled Noah into his car seat, and checked my temperature and pulse. I never want to see Emily again, ever. He gently patted my trembling shoulder. If you don't want to see her, that's fine, but can you tell me why later? I nodded silently. That night, after putting Noah to bed, I told Ryan everything that had happened up to this point. I see, so that's it. I heard even before we actually met for the first time that your ex-fiancé cheated on you before the wedding. But I didn't realize it was her. You knew? I knew something sad had happened to you. I nodded silently, over and over. Yes. And it wasn't just that. It was always. Tears of frustration kept coming. It's always the same. I only realize things after they actually happened. I've always hated Emily, I realized. If that's the case, she's pretty malicious. And she seems to have an unhealthy obsession with you. With me? Yes. Think about it. She approaches and dumps every guy you get close to. What do those guys mean to her? That's true, but your ex-fiancé isn't married to her now, is he? She's married to Jason, after all. That's true. And Jason, that too. Ryan had a thoughtful look on his face. What's on your mind? About Emily's husband? Just a thought. Amy, how do you want to deal with her from now on? Deal with her? That's impossible, no way. Just thinking about it made me feel suffocated. At one point, just thinking about Emily triggered my panic attacks. It's okay, it's okay. I'm sorry. I understand very well that you don't want to be near her. So, I have a plan. A plan? Yes. A way to ensure she never shows up in front of you again. Ryan smiled gently again. Oh, right. This man seemed gentle but was determined when necessary. 2 weeks later, in the evening. I was making dinner, waiting for Ryan to come home, when Noah suddenly shouted, "Mom! Grandpa and Grandma!" He pointed out the window. Just then, the intercom rang. Sure enough. It was my parents. I hurried to welcome them. Their home is several states away. It takes hours by car. What's going on? Yes, Ryan called us. He insisted we come to look after Noah. What? You didn't know? I hurriedly sent a message to Ryan. Almost immediately, I received a reply, "Your parents have arrived, I see. Come here now, and bring your phone earbuds." Along with a URL to a certain store. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like I need to go out now. That's unusual for Ryan. I was in the middle of making dinner. It's fine. We'll finish it and make it our dinner. Wondering what this was all about, I started getting ready to leave. By the way, Amy, we saw that girl's parents at a service area on our way here. My mom said, as if she just remembered. That girl? You know. Ugh. I hate to even think about her, that one. You mean Emily? I don't even want to say her name. I see. But what were they doing? I hadn't told my parents that Emily was living in this city. My mom was extremely worried about me after what had happened. And she was using abusive words towards Emily's parents too. Honestly, I never imagined that she would get so angry. Because of that, I didn't want to stir things up by mentioning Emily on the phone. Well, I'm leaving now. I got in my car and headed to the restaurant Ryan mentioned. It was a small but nice-looking restaurant. According to the website, it seems a bit pricey for dinner. I wondered if Ryan was waiting for me inside. As I got out of the car, I noticed a few other cars parked there as the evening set in. At the same time, I received another message on my phone. Put on your earbuds and come inside. Wondering what this was about, I went inside. The waiter guided me to a table. It was a table for two. One table over, a man sat alone with a drink in front of him. He leaned on the table with both elbows, his hands near his mouth, looking very serious. He had an intimidating aura. My husband hasn't arrived yet. As the waiter brought water and handed me a menu, I started to explain. The waiter put a finger to his lips and subtly pointed to a seat diagonally across through some Erica palm plant. There was Ryan. Several dishes were laid out on the table, probably an early dinner. Ryan was sitting across from a woman. I nodded to the waiter and ordered a light meal that wouldn't seem out of place. Just then, my phone buzzed in my bag. It was a message from Ryan. I quickly connected my earbuds to the phone and put them in my ears. And then I heard. No, Jason is a good doctor in plastic surgery. But Dr. Thompson, you are supposed to be even better, aren't you? A woman's voice, coming across from Ryan. It was Emily. Startled, I switched my phone to recording mode. Ryan was deliberately letting me hear this conversation. Since our first meeting, I've learned a bit about you from Jason. Is that so? I was so amazed. I heard that you have performed many difficult surgeries. Something like thousands of surgeries in 10 years? Well, it's my job. That's incredible. Emily's tone was completely different from the other day. But you did a lot of research. Actually, Jason told me when I mentioned how we happened to meet the other day. At that moment, the man in black unclasped his hands, lifted himself slightly from his seat, and then sat back down. I noticed he was also wearing earbuds. I see. It must have been surprising to suddenly meet an old friend again. Yes, that's true, but meeting you was the highlight for me, to be honest. Isn't it more important to see an old friend? No, I felt bad for being rude to you. Emily continued talking in a fawning tone. I hadn't known she could speak like this. In school, she never spoke this way around me. So, this is how she acted around men. And she must have been the same to Jack back then. Which means. By the way, are you happy with your marriage to Amy? I'm happy, but why do you ask? Isn't it boring being with Amy? Why would you say that? Well, her fiancé left her before their wedding, right? Amy is a wonderful wife. I'm lucky to have her. But she's plain, isn't she? What are you trying to say now, Mrs. Smith? Please, call me Emily. Since our conversation the other day, I've fallen in love with your calm attitude and personality. I think I can be a better partner for you than Amy. I could see the hands of the man in black trembling on the table. So, it was really him. Interesting. How would you be better for me? Well, aren't you invited to many parties? Having a plain wife like Amy would be embarrassing at such events. You need someone with a bit of flair. Like me. You think you wouldn't embarrass me? Exactly. So, you're suggesting you leave Jason and be with me? What? That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? I'm not very perceptive, you see. Oh, come on. Do I have to spell it out? I told you I fell in love with you at first sight. Jason is a promising young man. He'd be better for you than an old man like me. Age doesn't matter. And actually, I've been disappointed with him lately. At that moment, the man in black started to stand up. I hurried over to him. The man in black, yes, he must be Jason. I looked him in the eye and showed him my phone connected to my earbuds. Jason was startled and sat back down. We need to be patient for a bit longer. We needed to hear something more decisive. Disappointed? In what way? Because he comes home late every day? That's part of the job. Unfortunately, illnesses don't wait for anyone. No, it's not that. I don't care if he comes home late. Then what is it? It's his salary. Given his age and career, it's normal. Young doctors earn that much. But he's a doctor. And? When you marry to a doctor, you'd expect an annual income of over $100,000. I believe he makes around $70,000 to $80,000 now. When we got married, it was much less. I was disappointed. Plus, he travels to conferences all the time and never takes me with him. And you think I would? It's not just about the money. Like I said before, I fell in love with you at first sight. What do you mean? I want to be with you. At that moment, Jason finally stood up. I tried to stop him, but it was too late. He walked toward Emily and stood behind her, across from the Erica palm plant. I quickly followed. Ryan smiled softly. Emily, is what you just said true? Jason's low voice came from behind Emily. She turned around, literally jumping. What? Jason? And Amy? What are you two doing here? Are you having an affair? See, when you have a guilty conscience, that's the first thing you assume. Ryan said gently to her. I heard everything. You've always thought of me that way, haven't you? What? What's going on? Isn't this what you meant? I started playing the recording of her conversation with Ryan. What is this? Ryan pulled out two phones from his bag. One was connected to mine and the other was connected to Jason's. Do you even know how long it takes to become a full-fledged doctor? What? What are you talking about? We spend 6 years in medical school, followed by 5 years of residency before becoming fully licensed doctors. I had just become one when we met. Huh? Emily started counting using her fingers. In other words, I was just a rookie. But you told me you were a doctor when we met for drinks with others. I was a doctor, there was no lie. But I was dragged there by high school friends. I thought I was too young to get married. But you came on strong. And even then, I was earning more than most people at my age. You just assumed I'd be earning much more. That's true. Doctors do earn a lot, but not until they're fully fledged. Whether they're in private practice, where they work, and depending on their job status and age, all affect their income. And it's true that they have fewer chances for marriage. It was a rare outing. I told you I was still a busy rookie, and I initially refused. That's true, but... It might sound like an excuse, but I always wanted to work in the countryside and needed to build experience for that. I wanted to be capable of anything. But you became hysterical every time I mentioned it. Because I don't want to live in the middle of nowhere. I told you that I'd get higher salary, but you still didn't like it. And you didn't even do the housework properly. Despite claiming you'd be a supportive housewife. What? I was surprised at this. But, these days, housework shouldn't just be a woman's responsibility. That's for when both partners work. I interrupted. If you choose to be a housewife, you should handle all the housework perfectly and not make your husband worry about anything. Amy. Are you saying you do all that? What about socializing and other activities? You seem to be misunderstanding a lot. Ryan sighed deeply. You have a completely wrong image of a doctor's wife. Her image was outdated, like something from a past generation. The glamorous life you imagine doesn't exist. I wait for him to come home at unpredictable hours, take care of our child. And make sure his meals are nutritious so he can handle long surgeries. I see. Jason, actually, I often thought that you were a bit careless. Was it because you're not getting enough sleep at home? Ryan asked. Yes. Even though I'm capable of all the cooking and chores at home because I used to do them myself? But clearly my sleep is often interrupted for those now, and when I'm awake, Emily constantly distracts me, leaving me little time to study. Study? Of course. We have to keep learning new things for patients. So, Amy, you also study? Of course. I need to be able to support him whenever he gets a sudden call. If we were both doctors, we might hire a housekeeper or a secretary. But since I'm not, I do what I can to support Ryan, for our family and the hospital, and to set a good example for our son. So arrogant. Say whatever you want. I'm not the same person I used to be. Indeed. Seeing Emily flirting Ryan had replaced my fear with boundless anger. Emily seemed too upset to respond and stayed silent. Then, Jason spoke up again. Emily, I've decided to leave you. I want a divorce. What? What are you talking about? I can't become a good doctor with you around. Let me ask again, are you willing to follow me to a rural area? No, I don't want to go to such places. I see. But I want to go. I'm done being dragged down by you. Emily's face froze. You can't just abandon me. How could you? Suddenly, Emily turned to me. It's all your fault, Amy. Why did you come here? If you hadn't. If I hadn't, you wouldn't have tried to steal my husband? Your mindset hasn't changed at all since university days. How dare you? As I watched her, I realized my feelings towards Emily were shifting from fear to pity. Why did you always steal my boyfriends or those interested in me, only to dump them? Because I hated your goody two-shoes act. I see. But if you hated me so much, why go through all the trouble? With Jack, you even ran away from home. Yes. Emily acted quite odd. If she disliked me, ignoring or bullying me would have been easier. Instead, she decided to steal and dump my boyfriends in a range in which other friends could see. And ultimately, she stole my fiancé and got sued for it. Hey, Emily, maybe you were actually obsessed with me? What? She widened her eyes in disbelief. Her neck veins seemed more prominent, perhaps due to her anger. It's said that veins pop out when you're furious. Even besides Jack, I hardly noticed what you were doing. And any guy who fell for your tricks wasn't worth much anyway. In the end. You did me a favor. No, that's not true. It can't be. Even if I had married Jack, he probably would have cheated on me. So, in a way, you saved me from unhappiness, didn't you? What? Emily's gaze wandered aimlessly. You didn't notice? That's impossible. But I'm sorry, Emily. From now on, I'll forget about you. That's a lie. It can't be true. As she said this, Emily clutched her chest and suddenly collapsed in front of us. Ryan. Jason looked at Ryan with a serious expression. Call an ambulance, quickly. Right. Ryan and Jason explained the situation to the paramedics, and both went with her in the ambulance. Since Ryan specializes in cardiac surgery, he probably wouldn't be coming home tonight. I took a deep breath, and a waiter brought my order, saying, "You must be exhausted." Thank you. Sorry for the mess. Not at all. Ryan asked for a private hire for this anyway. Wow, he prepared so well. I smiled, realizing just how determined he could be when it mattered. Later, there was another thing happening at the hospital. Ryan had arranged for Emily's parents to arrive at the restaurant to confront her. Apparently, Emily hadn't even introduced Jason to her parents after getting married. Given the timing, she might have postponed the introduction. But now it was unavoidable. Ryan contacted Emily's parents through Jason for two reasons. First, there was a risk she might cause more problems with men. The second reason was that Ryan had noticed something was wrong with Emily's health. Ever since he first met her, he had been concerned about the way her veins on the right side of her neck were so visible. Emily had a heart condition, which was confirmed when she was taken to the hospital. Thanks to the quick treatment, her life wasn't in danger, but she needed to be hospitalized. Her parents, who rushed over, decided to take her back home. Emily was quite shaken by three things: the divorce, the sudden illness she discovered, and being confronted by me, whom she looked down on. These three things had a significant impact on her emotional state. I don't want to go back to my parents' house. Emily resisted, but her father said, "You have to repay the previous compensation we covered." Her father's intense anger left Emily, weakened by her condition, unable to say anything in response. The divorce resulted in a contentious dispute, leading to mediation. During the mediation, it was revealed that Emily had also embezzled Jason's savings, which increased the amount her parents had to cover. Dragged back to her parents' house, Emily couldn't escape the demand to work and repay the debt under their watchful eyes. Now, under her parents' watch, she spends every day working hard while trying to take care of her health. For someone like Emily with a carefree personality, that situation must be unbearably difficult. Oh, a message from Jason. It was the weekend. Ryan had a half day off, so we went to a park with a large grassy area. Though it was still cold, Noah, warmly dressed, was running and laughing on the grass. How is he doing? Sitting on a bench where we could see Noah, we took turns reading the email. Look at this photo. In the photo, Jason was smiling and participating in an event with the locals. His expression was completely different from the worried look he had back then. I'm glad. You won't be troubled by the past anymore. That's really true. Half of my fears were self-created. But confronting Emily made those fears disappear like magic. Daddy. Noah is waving his hands energetically. All right. I'm gonna catch you, shouted Ryan as he started running. And I am watching over them. Now and always.